All right, hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. How's everyone doing? Hey, it's Devin Bricker. Thanks for the raid. Welcome everyone, welcome. Yeah, how's everything going? I'm just getting started here. We have good lecture planned for you guys, aka how to beat the Stafford Gambit. And yeah, let me just get into it. So let me make a couple things clear. Number one, why are we doing this video right now? Well, we have a sub battle coming up against Eric Rosen's team tomorrow, which we still need a few players for. And I actually don't expect we're going to see like a ton of Stafford Gambits. I don't think all of Eric's subs just play the Stafford, relentlessly. And I'm sure some of you guys play D4, right, and are not going to see it. But the thing is that the Stafford Gambit has defeated my students in many games. and it's about time, we have something solid against it, because I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's just going to be around for a while. And there might be different variants to it in the future, but it's important that we kind of have something that we know we can rely on against the Gambit. And let me just say, in case it isn't clear, me and Eric are good friends. I'm not doing this to start a feud or rivalry, anything like that. I really love Eric's content, and I think he's an absolute genius when it comes to coming up with new ideas. But the students come first, and I know you guys are suffering a lot and losing a lot of games to the Stafford. And I just want to help you guys out so you have at least some prep for it, something in mind, some weapon to use against it. Now, let's put it on the board, and then we'll talk a little bit about the psychology of the Stafford. And I think this is very important because I know a lot of players, it's a very controversial opening. I know a lot of players really love the opening because it scores them a lot of nice wins. And a lot of players really, really hate it. They really despise it. So much to the point where, they don't even accept it. Nowadays, I see players against Knight of 6 playing like Knight C3 here and going into the 4 knights, which is a very, honestly, harmless opening overall, just to avoid the Stafford. And maybe we can discuss a little bit why players are doing this. Why are people so afraid? Well, Black does have tricks in this opening. There's lots of little ways to go wrong. We're going to focus on what I think White should do, of course. So I'm not going to be showing a lot of the tricks. But I think people just get nervous, and then they don't like losing to these tricks, and they feel like objectively it's not a great opening, so they should be able to crush it. And then when they lose to it, and they can feel their opponent, laughing at them, it's like, I think that really drives some players up the wall. But I don't think it should. I think, if anything, we should be happy to see this opening. Once you get to a certain level, guys, Black has a lot of really solid stuff. So wait till, you have to bang your head against really solid openings, like the Caro-Kann, the Berlin, or if you're a D4 player, the Slav, the QGD. As a D4 player, honestly, I'm really happy when my opponent plays some kind of dubious gambit or really sharp line, because it means I'm going to have a chance to fight for an advantage. What I don't want to see is an opponent who plays a super solid Slav, and then I don't get anything as White. Or if I'm an E4 player, when I'm playing E4, I don't want to see the Ruy Lopez or the Berlin lines that are super, super solid, and it's really hard for White to get any edge whatsoever. So I really enjoy it when my opponents play adventurous openings, because it means as White, you're going to have big chances to get a big advantage. Okay, so with that, let's get into some of the lines. So as you guys can imagine, I recommend accepting the gambits. And I don't think you should accept every gambit. And I've also noticed that a lot of players, they kind of have these weird philosophies. Either they accept every single gambit 100% of the time because it's supposed to be bad and that's how you beat gambits, or they reject gambits altogether because they feel like it's playing into the opponent's comfort zone. They're like, oh, well, if they're hoping for the gambit, then I'm just going to reject the gambit. And I think there is some logic to both sides of the argument here, but my recommendation would be not to be so black and white 100% one way or the other. Right? I think there are some gambits that we should accept and beat them because objectively we get a good position. It's easy to play. There are other gambits that, in my opinion, are not really worth going into because you might have a simpler option and still get just as good of a position. So one example I like to use is the Smith-Morra. Now, objectively, I don't think the Smith-Morra is that great. I don't think white is like getting a big advantage here. But as black, as a Sicilian player, I already have to deal with the c3 Sicilian as it is. And against the c3 Sicilian, I play knight f6 here. Main line is to go e5. I go knight d5, d4, and then main line is to take. In this position, I'm happy to play as black all day. Against the Smith-Morra, after d4, after black takes this one, if white plays c3, again, you could accept the gambit, and more power to you, totally fine. But you can also play this move if this is part of your repertoire. And now white doesn't really have a better move than e5. And then after knight d5 here, we're just transposing to the main line of the c3 Sicilian. So from my point of view, if I'm already willing to play this line as black, already willing to go into it, provided that my white opponent starts with c3, then to me there's no difference whether they start with c3 or d4. We're getting the same position. I don't really see the benefit of having to learn a new system against the Smith-Morra. It's not like the Smith-Morra is winning for black if you learn all the lines. I think it's a very, very playable and very interesting opening for white. I think it's dangerous. With that, let's talk a little bit about different gambits. I feel like the Smith-Morra is a gambit where you kind of get long-term initiative. And this is the one thing why I don't really recommend the Stafford gambit. I'm sure a lot of people really enjoy it and they have fun with it. To me, it's always seemed like an opening where you're playing for these early tricks, and then if they don't work, you often just end up with a much, much worse position, and we'll see how in just a sec. Smith-Morra here, there are tricks, but this is really just about the long-term compensation. White gets very quick development, white gets lots of open lines for the pieces, the rooks almost always come to c1 and d1, and this is an initiative that drags on deep, deep, deep into the middle game. Same thing, in my opinion, happens with the Banco Gambit, which I think is another gambit that is going to survive long term. Now, I know that the engine these days is giving white a big advantage in these positions, but from a practical sense, it's really not that easy. And again, it's not like black is playing for just quick tricks here. They're getting long-term compensation by putting their bishop on this diagonal. Once black castles and the rook on f8 gets to b8, white gets long-term pressure against white's queenside. Actually, we did a whole video kind of ranking gambits, and we talked a lot more about different gambits and how we feel on them. That's on the Dojo's YouTube channel, Dojo Talks Gambits, and we rank all our favorites and so on. And yeah, we kind of talk about which gambits we think are playable at different levels and which ones are mainly just for trickery. Yeah, and some gambits actually shouldn't be accepted at all. Actually, a good example brought up in the chat is the Vienna. I don't think the Vienna gambit is a real gambit because if black takes on f4 here after e5, white already has a crushing position. The knight has to go back to g8, and it's just really, really bad for black. White will certainly win back this pawn and then have just a fantastic version of the king's gambit. So the Vienna, I don't even consider this one a gambit. I think this is just a normal opening. The king's gambit, I do consider a gambit. There are different ways of playing against it. Personally, I like to take on f4 here as black, but there are different lines. You don't necessarily have to accept the pawn, though it is, I think, totally fine. Okay, well, let's get into the Stafford. So here's my recommendation. Knight c6, we take on c6. Here black most of the time goes d takes c6. And the reason they're doing that is so they can play bishop c5. And their queen is already opened up to go to the d4 square. And it doesn't let white play d4 themselves so easily. Right? We can't play d4 here because the e4 pawn is hanging. So we have to start with some other move. If black were to play b takes c6, then I would just play knight c3 in this position. And bishop c5 doesn't really make a lot of sense because white can just play d4 and take over the whole center. And yeah, we're essentially just a pawn up and we have the center. So white is just much, much better. Black could try something like bishop b4 here. And I just want to include this line because I think it's a pretty instructive one. There are different ways for white to play, but I think a really simple way to get an advantage is to play bishop e2 in this position. And we are letting black win back the pawn with takes and knight takes e4. But then we get this thematic move queen d4 in where we hit the knight, we hit the g7 pawn. And black's only way to defend both, let's say, is knight f6. Then white can continue bishop to g5. And we've given the pawn back, but if we just look at the position, let's just forget what happened in the past couple moves. Let's just forget that we're up a pawn, now we gave the pawn back. Let's just evaluate this position at face glance, or face value, excuse me. We're just castling queenside here. We have two extremely active bishops. The dark squared bishop is an unopposed bishop. Black does not have a dark squared bishop of their own. I think white's position here is just fantastic. We're going to castle queenside. Rook is going to come to the e-file. Our two bishops are super active. At any moment, we can take on f6 and double black's pawns, although I think this would be cashing in a little bit too early. I would prefer to keep this pressure deep into the middle game and just play the position, playing for the initiative. And once we castle, I'm really not worried about the b-file here because it's very difficult for black to add any attackers to the queenside. White is just defending here very comfortably. So yeah, b takes c6 is definitely not too serious of a move, but I just wanted to mention it just for completeness sake. Now, question from the chat, is there any way for black to try to get a Stafford if white plays 3d4? Not that I know of. I think this is just a different line against the Petrov. And if you just play this move normally, then that's fine. But I would really discourage playing this move just because we're afraid of the Stafford. Like if normally against the Petrov defense you would be taking on e5 here, then I think you should continue doing this, and the Stafford Gambit should not scare you away from doing this. And it does really bug me when players are like, oh, I don't want to play into the Stafford because it's giving the opponent exactly what they want. There was another player in the Discord who against e4, d5, instead of playing e takes d5 here, which virtually everyone accepts as the only move that white can use to play for the advantage, they like to play this move e5, which is strategically, I think, a pretty dubious move because it gives away a lot of light squares in the center. It basically gives black a very nice version of the French. Black can go bishop f5, e6, and just have a fantastic position. So I understand the logic of not wanting to play into your opponent's hands, but some players really take it, too far, right? If your opponent captures your piece, they're going to be expecting you to recapture, right? Are we really not going to recapture just because they'll be playing into the opponent's hands, right? It's like the same logic, yeah? So it doesn't necessarily mean it's good logic in every position. So I believe in facing the dragon head on. Okay, so let's go into d takes e6. The move I would like to recommend is d3. And the setup that I'm going to be recommending is to play bishop e2, which does a good job of covering the g4 square, and then slowly building the center with c3, d4, because black is usually going to be putting the bishop out on c5. But even if they don't, I would say this is a good plan. Sometimes white might need to throw in knight d2 in order to defend the e4 pawn first, and then play c3, d4 and get a big system, big center, excuse me. And the knight on d2 can also, in some lines, be developed back to f3, where we have a very nice knight on the king side. I know that this f3 line is pretty popular, and I think objectively it's probably totally fine for white. I think the idea is to play for c3 as well, and then build a big center with d4. But honestly, I don't really see the advantages of this one, when, in my opinion, the bishop on e2 does the same job of defending the g4 square, and we don't make this kind of long-term weakness like we do with f3. So in a blitz game, I would say if there's no reason to play f3, if there are lines just as good, then I don't really quite see the point of playing this one. If f3 was the only good move in the position, then I would be recommending f3 right now, but it's not. I think white has options that are just as good, if not better. So I don't really see the practical value of doing this, especially in blitz where you're going to have to deal with kind of the long-term weakness that we're making with this move. So yeah, my recommendation is to go d3. Okay, now black here, I think 99% of the time plays bishop c5. And then white should follow up with bishop e2. So we're simply developing and recovering the g4 square. And we're going to look at, I think, two moves here. The old move, which is to play knight to g4. And the modern way, let's call it, of playing this line, which is to go h5. Which, again, many of my students have lost to exactly this position. Because there are some tricks that we have to watch out for. First, let's take a look at knight g4. So the point here is that black is attacking f2, of course, and we can take this one, and I think we should. Now black's idea is to play queen h4, so this is how they're winning back the piece. They're threatening mate, and they're threatening the light-scored bishop. There's different ways of playing this position. Like, for example, I think queen f3 is a very reasonable move, where black plays bishop takes g4 here. The idea is to go queen g3, and we offer a queen trade with an extra pawn, so we should be very happy in any endgame where we're kind of a pawn up. No real compensation for black. Instead, I would imagine black is going to try to keep the queens on the board with something like queen to h5, and I do think white's position here is quite good. For example, one line that's kind of funny is we can go h3, just hitting the bishop, and then black plays bishop d1 here, threatening mate. We play knight c3, defending mate, attacking the bishop. And then after bishop takes c2, we can play this funny move king d2, and black's bishop is actually trapped and white is winning a piece, and black doesn't have much compensation for it. I mean, black won the pawn back, but now they're going to be losing a full bishop. I'm not going to recommend this one because I think it's a little tricky. For example, on bishop takes d3, queen takes would run into a pin on the d file. So we probably have to play king takes. And I think white is winning here, but it's not necessary to go into all these complications. Although I did want to mention that queen f3 here is a very reasonable move. I think the simpler choice is just to play g3. And now we're forcing a queen trade because we're up a piece from earlier. So black has to take on g4 with the queen. If they take with the bishop, then they're going to end up a piece down after gh4 takes, king takes. White's just a piece up. So they have to play queen takes g4. And then we can trade queens. Bishop takes. And I would play the move h3 here, just to put the question to the bishop and force the bishop to move. Now black has a big choice. Either they play bishop f3, or they go back and just kind of accept being a pawn down. If they do play bishop f3, then we can go ahead and castle here. And now the main idea for white is to just kick this bishop out with knight d2 next. And once we get knight d2 in, the bishop just can't stay on f3, and white is going to be slowly consolidating the extra pawn, actually pretty quickly. So there's really not a lot of compensation here for black. Knight d2 is coming, and it's a big problem. I was thinking maybe black could try like f5, just as a provocative move. We can take, let's say, castles queenside, bishop e3. And this is a pretty typical idea in these kinds of positions. We want to try to trade off one of black's bishops, because black has the bishop pair. By trading it off, we kind of neutralize that advantage, and we leave ourselves with some extra material. So, long story short, I don't really believe in this endgame for black. And if we just go back here, after h3, let's say black goes back something like bishop e6, then I think really simple move to play here is just bishop e3. And this does allow black to double the pawns, but I think these double pawns in the center are actually quite strong. The pawns on the light squares do a great job of restricting the light square bishop, and this pawn on the dark square covers some extra squares as well. And so the plan here for white is just to develop. The king can actually live very comfortably on d2, can bring a rook to the f-file, and then the knight maybe transfers to e2 and f4 or d4. And I think white is just doing great. Hey, thanks Paspon for the 5 gifted subs. Much appreciated. I know some people are very happy to be to now finally have something against the dreaded Stafford. So you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, let's go back. Now, if you play this system nowadays, I think a well-prepared Stafford player is probably going to hit you with h5. And there is some trickery here, but as long as you follow the plan and just follow like basic guidelines, it's pretty straightforward. So I recommend to play c3 here. And this is the plan. We're playing c3, and we're trying to build a big center with d4. If we get d4 in, the bishop on c5 gets shut down. Black's compensation is very minimal. So I think black really has to be very active here and play a move like knight to g4. Now I think some players, they like to be a little tricky, and they play this move bishop b6. And the idea is that they back up so that if you play d4 now, it doesn't come with tempo, and black can take the e4 pawn. But here's where I would suggest just playing this prophylactic move knight d2, where we develop the knight, we defend the e4 pawn in advance, and now we're ready to push d4 next. So for example, knight g4, we can play d4. The bishop on b6 is shut down. Let's say queen h4, for example, they might continue. White can go g3, and there's really not much in this position for black. If queen h3, then there's bishop f1, kind of a nice move, trapping the queen. And when the queen goes back, let's say queen f6, we can cover the mate again with knight to f3. So very important that we're covering the key weakness in our position, the f2 pawn. And if black tries something super aggressive like h4, I think we can just go ahead and take this one. I really don't see where black's threats are coming from, but our bishop is coming to g5, and then we can play queen d2, and in the long run, possibly castle queenside. We should first throw in h3 here to kick the knight. In fact, h3 can be white's next move in this position, because we don't really want to allow this knight to live on g4 for very long. Okay, let's go back. So the main move is knight g4. This is usually how Stafford Gambit players play this one. And again, I've had a lot of student games that go down this path. They play d4, and now black hits them with queen h4. If black does not play this move, queen h4, if they do something else, like dropping back with the bishop, then white's next move should be h3 here, usually in these positions. h3 is just a very important move for us to play because we just don't want to let black's knight hang out on g4 for the rest of the game, right? The knight on g4 is active, it puts a lot of pressure, it prevents us from developing the bishop to e3 where it would like to go. Our setup here, that kind of ideal, like bishop e3, knight d2. Yeah, so we want to play h3 here, bishop e3, knight d2. We get all of our pieces out. And again, we have an extra pawn, big center. Black is very minimal compensation. If after h3 here, let's say black tries something like queen h4, pinning the pawn and hitting f2, then typical response is g3. And now two of black's pieces are hanging, and this is a big problem. And if black takes on f2 here, for example, I think we could probably take back, but even easier, just take on h4. They take our queen, we win the knight, and white has a piece up. So let's recap. h5, white is pushing c3, trying to build for d4. Knight g4, white pushes d4. Now black has to try queen h4. So white should play g3, hitting the queen. And now bishop on c5 is still hanging. Queen on h4 is hanging. So black has only one move here, queen f6, reigniting the threat against the f2 pawn. And this is really the key move, maybe in this whole line. Bishop f3. So this is a really important move to defend the f2 pawn. A lot of players play f3 in this position, again, including my students. And I think objectively this move is good, but it actually gets very, very tricky after this move h4. And so in a blitz game, I don't think this is something we really want to enter unless we feel very well prepared. Because it's pretty sharp. Black wants to take on g3, then the rook opens up on the h-file, and white could get into huge, huge difficulties here very, very quickly. So instead, bishop f3, much safer move, much more simpler for white to handle. Our idea is to play h3 next. Remember, h3 is always the move we're trying to get in this position. As it kicks the knight backwards. Then the bishop can come out to e3, knight can come to d2, and we can complete our development, and one day, castle queenside. So now, black is kind of out of tricks. They finally have to play bishop b6 here. And now we can go ahead and kick the knights. If h4 from black anyway, that's a good question. Let's say black plays h4 in this position. They're simply not enough. We can, I think, either take the knight on g4 or take on c5. I'd probably just take this knight because this is the most annoying piece. And the bishop on c5 is still restricted. Then after hg3, we can recapture fg, of course. We don't want to hang our rook on h1. And black just doesn't have any tricks here. Bishop on g4 is defended. So that's the big difference. h4 we can just take on g4, whereas if we started with f3 here and black goes h4, then taking after hg, very, very complicated position because our king is opening up. There's play on the h-file. Black's g-pawn might survive to be very dangerous and become a queen one day. I don't think we really want to enter this without being prepared. So bishop f3. That's kind of the big difference. So bishop b6, h3. And now the knight simply has to go back. There's no real way for black to try and continue here in, let's say, an active way. Some players, they make some other moves here, but this h3 move, I think, very, very important to just kick the knight so it doesn't cause you any grief. Then after knight h6, for example, white can just continue developing here, bishop e3. I think the compensation is more or less over. We want to play knight d2, maybe put our queen on e2, castle queenside. I'll just show you guys sample line. Let's say bishop e6, knight d2, queenside castling, queen e2. Let's say black goes rook he8. And just looking at the position, if we just forget all of our feelings about the Stafford Gambit, and we just look at the position at face value, white is just doing great. Big center, extra pawn. Black's knight on h6 is on the side of the board. Black's bishop on b6, very restricted. Sure, it feels like black might have some play along the central files, but our center is very, very nicely defended. This is not like the Benko Gambit where the pawns on the queen side are vulnerable. These pawns are very nicely defended. And here there's actually lots of moves that white can play in this position. You can play bishop takes h5. There's nothing wrong with that. You can play h4, threatening bishop g5. You can actually castle, and then on bishop takes a2, push b3, and the bishop is trapped. But if you don't even want to enter those kinds of complications, you can often just start with a4 in this kind of position, threatening to push a5. This is a pretty thematic idea. And then once black deals with this threat, let's say with a5 or with a6, now you can castle queenside, and white's king is perfectly safe because we're controlling the center. We can play, well, be careful about knight c4, right? Because takes bishop on f3 is hanging. So this is maybe one way we can blunder here. But we can take on h5, we can drop the bishop back to g2, and then go knight c4. Lots and lots of plans here for white. h4 is another one, once again, just trying to get the bishop to g5. And from here, you play chess, guys. I mean, we can't prepare this to death. I think it's already a little bit of overkill. Honestly, once we get this position, we should be totally fine. Big center, extra pawn, and game over. Okay, so let me review just the main line of this to give people a quick cliff notes on the ideas. And then I'll look at some bonus lines if you guys have any further questions. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. We have the Stafford. We take the Stafford. We go d3, bishop c5, bishop e2, carving the g4 square. If knight g4, we take this one. Queen h4, we go g3. We force the queen trade with queen takes g4. Takes, we castle. We go h3. Then we castle next, and then knight comes to d2. And we cover this square, or we play bishop e3, and we trade off the dark square bishops. So let's go back. Instead, black's main move is to play h5, which is the trickiest move. And here we continue c3. And our idea is to push d4 and take over the center. If black drops back and this pawn is hanging, then we start with knight d2. We defend the pawn in advance. Now it's very difficult for black to stop d4. Another idea is to play knight c4 here, followed by a4, and just taking black's dark square bishop, which is also very, very fundamentally sound concept. So usually after c3, black is playing knight g4, going after the f2 pawn. We play d4 to shut down the bishop. Black goes queen h4. We play g3 to deal with the threat. Black goes queen f6. And we go bishop f3 to cover the f2 pawn. Now the counterplay for black is basically running out. They have to drop their bishop back because it was hanging. And here, very important that we kick this knight off of g4 so we don't have to deal with any more tricks. And from here, we can start developing, for example, bishop e3, knight d2, queen e2, and then we're ready to one day either castle queenside or throw an a4 first and then castle queenside. And white is in very good shape. We got a big center extra pawn, and we should be able to handle ourselves from here. Now, if you still lose the game after getting such a dominating position, guess what? It happens. You're playing blitz. Blitz is very volatile. Blitz is not just about whoever has the better opening prep. You still have to play good chess in the middle game. So I would discourage you guys, strongly discourage you from treating the opening as some kind of memory test where if you just remember the right moves, then you win the game. That's not it at all. The opening is a way for you to get a good position in the middle game, but it usually doesn't just win the game for you. You still have to play well. You have to build your advantage, handle your pieces and your pawns properly, look for tactics, look for ideas from the opponent, and only then can you actually win the game. Is just taking the knight bad? Well, let's see. Depends on the position. If we take here, for example, then black gets their light squared bishop in. And since we've given up the light squared bishop, this is going to be a problem for us. So this is an example where black does get some real compensation because the light squared bishop is going to be a super strong piece attacking a lot of the weak squares in our camp. So if we don't have to give up our light squared bishop, I'd rather not, right? Bishop f3, then we can just kick the knight and relegate it back to the h6 square. Okay, there was some questions earlier about the knight c3 and queen e2 line. Honestly, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at this one. But for me, again, it's one of those things where, like, if we can just get a very decent position playing normal moves like d3, bishop e2, then I don't really see a reason to investigate this line. Right? This one to me seems positionally suspect because we're blocking in our own bishop. If the engine improves, then I'm sure it's probably fine, and I'm sure white can get an advantage here. But for me, this line is just already good enough, and so there's no real reason to do something awkward like playing f3 or knight c3, queen e2. I just think this line is very straightforward. It's honestly not difficult to remember as long as you keep in mind your idea to play c3, d4, building the center. And from here, it's just a matter of dealing with black's threats. The way players often go wrong is that they just play very fast in the opening. And so they play quickly and then they mess up because they just made a move too fast. That was actually incorrect. All right, so if you're ever not sure in the opening, guys, is just a general tip. Just like take a little bit of time, take a couple seconds. You don't have to just be like super reactive. But I see that a lot. I see that in many different openings where someone is just playing moves on autopilot, not even paying attention to what the opponent is doing. They're just sticking to the same setup over and over again. And this happens in the London, but it happens in many other openings as well. I've seen it happen in the Sicilian, where someone is just playing their same setup against the Sicilian over and over again, regardless of what their opponent is doing. This is not a good way to play chess. A good way to play chess is actually think about your moves, make sure you're responding to your opponent's ideas and following some kind of consistent plan, but staying flexible so you're willing to adjust when the opponent throws something different at you. Okay. There are any other questions on the Stafford? I'd be happy to answer them. Yeah, Nordvik, the line I'm suggesting is to play d3 and bishop e2. And from here, we're playing for c3 and d4. And so we're not playing with an early h3. Later, white can play h3 once this knight gets to g4. So, for example, in this position, I think h3 is a very good idea to kick the knights, but not until this moment. From here, should the plan be to castle queenside? Yeah, I think if you play this setup, then we do want to castle queenside. Kingside castling might be possible, but it seems tricky because the h3 pawn is hanging. So I know there was a question on kingside castling, but yeah, I think in general against the Stafford, you have to be very careful about castling kingside because a lot of black's pieces are kind of pointing at that direction. Especially the rook on h8, really wants to get into the game and would be really happy if you castle kingside. So generally, I would avoid it. Scooty, I'm not sure. The arena site should be working at some point, so I would just try again before tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. So yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this lecture. I think we'll probably put it up on YouTube, but also the VOD will be available if you missed the first part where I was going through other lines and kind of going into the main line into a little bit more detail. So that will be available. And once again, guys, it's an opening like any other, right? If you lose to the Stafford, it doesn't mean that you should quit chess or something, right? It's just like a tricky opening. It's not the first tricky opening that's ever existed, and it won't be the last. It's just one of many tricky openings. D4 players have to deal with the Albin counter gambit and the Budapest gambit. There's lots of these little gambits out there that make chess a little bit tricky to play. But there's no shame in losing to an opening like this because, well, black is taking on more risk, but they're taking on that risk for a reason because sometimes they're able to win games. And so if you lose to an opening, it doesn't mean you're bad. It just means you didn't play well that game. Like, that's all. So I would encourage you guys not to take it way too seriously. And in general, just have fun with your chess and your life and try to relax. And everything's going to be okay, guys. Everything's going to be okay. All right. I hope everyone has fun in the sub battle tomorrow. And even if you're not playing the sub battle tomorrow, you might run into the Stafford Gambit one day anyway. And so hopefully you can you'll be able to handle it once you get there. Yeah, so the sub battle against Eric Rosen is going to start at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Actually, we'll be streaming together. He'll be here with me in St. Louis, so that'll be a lot of fun to dual stream. Yeah, hopefully you guys can play. If you would like to sign up, the link is going to be in the chat. And actually, we have another sub battle against Samai Raina on Sunday. And that's starting at 11 a.m. Pacific, so a little bit later for the Pacific coast. But for you Europeans out there, both sub battles very accessible. You know, we've made it a point to try to hold them earlier so that we can get a lot of Europeans to play. So you're welcome. Hopefully you guys are able to show up. But yeah, use the links in the chat to sign up. Please make sure to sign up ahead of time, because you do need to register on Arena and connect your chess.com account. Once you do that, it's very simple. You got to join the actual event. So make sure to use that arena.gl/events link that's in the chat. It's also been posted in the Discord, in the announcements and schedule of events channel. But make sure to sign up ahead of time so I know you can play. All right, cool, guys. Yeah, I understand, Scooty. You've mentioned that a few times at this point. I would say just keep trying a little bit later. I don't know, or maybe try a different browser. I never, it's hard to do tech support when I don't know what's going on. But yeah, the site seems to be working fine for others because a lot of people were able to sign up. So, just try again later. And hopefully you can get in. Yeah, Chess Numbers has a good suggestion there. All right, guys. So coming up later today is going to be US Chess School, I think with Grandmaster Johan Helstein. So he'll be back to teach another class. That's going to be starting in about 3 hours. So 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, and 4 p.m. Pacific Time. But yeah, I'm going to actually stay on for a little bit. I'm going to take a break right now for a couple minutes. But then I'll be back, and maybe we'll just run like a 3+2 arena and give you guys some training for the sub battle tomorrow. So I think I'll get on that. Chess Dojo, Crazy House, 3+2. All right, we'll start the arena, let's say at 3:15 local time, so in about 20 minutes. So that'll be 1:15 Pacific time. We'll do an hour-long arena. I don't know, 15 minimum games to avoid brand new accounts. And that'll be available for everyone. So yeah, it's going to start in 22 minutes. I'll put the link in MooBot, and then you guys can join if you would like to play. And I'm going to take a quick break, but I will be back. All right, link is in the chat. Arena starting in 20 minutes. You guys can join there. Oh, wait. I think I messed up the link. 1 second. All right, that should be better. All right, new link in the chat. That should work for everyone. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a little bit. Hopefully you enjoyed the lecture. I want to see some Stafford victories. I'll see you guys soon. All right, guys, welcome back to the stream. We've got a 3+2 training arena coming up, starting in about 5-6 minutes. So plenty of time to get in. All you need to do is hit !play, and you can join the arena. I'll be watching. And yeah, hopefully giving you guys some tips for our sub battles this weekend. We got one against Eric, got one against Samai Raina. Gonna be very hard fought because this league is for real, guys. I mean, there's gonna be playoffs and there's gonna be a knockout season in a couple weeks, and yeah, so we gotta get our players ready. Gotta get our players ready. So we have a few players in so far. I'm sure more will join in the next 5 minutes. And yeah, if you're a sub, I'm gonna try to focus on your games so that I can pay attention to how you're playing. So call Mel, Laurent, Boondock Striker, Chessmaster 96 Twitch. I'll be watching you guys. What openings I recommend for white and black that I have personal experience with? King's Indian Defense and Sicilian. Great openings for black. For white, I like e4 and d4. So yeah, lots of recommendations there. Hey, Zero Sum, you can play. I mean, it's not great for your personal chess improvement to play Blitz. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can play if you want to have fun. There's no no shame in that. Blitz is very hard. As I'll remind you guys, Blitz is very difficult. And I think a lot of players make the mistake that they think they should be good at Blitz, even though they haven't been playing for that long. And I think this is a very serious error that players make. It's just like they see, Hikaru and these other guys that are like monsters at Blitz, and they're like, oh, how come I'm not good? Well, you haven't been playing for like years and years and years, So Blitz is, yeah, it's really difficult. You have like a choice of so many wrong moves every move, and you only have like 3 minutes to think about what you're doing. It's not easy, guys. I mean, yeah, it's really, really hard. So relax. Just try to have fun. Try to make quick moves. Try to stay focused. If you're playing the arena, definitely mute the stream. Don't be listening to anything, really. Don't be watching any videos. It's going to be just distracting. Try to focus on your games, and I think you'll do better than otherwise. Speaking of videos to distract you, by the way, I played this match with Eric here in St. Louis, and I just posted the first game. It was an over-the-board match, IRL, or as I like to call it, normal chess. And yeah, I just posted the first game on my personal YouTube channel. I linked it in the Discord, so you guys can go check out that Blitz video there if you want to see some real-life over-the-board chess. Yeah, same, Chessmaster, same. I think it happens a lot. Hey, we have Vampire Chess. Awesome. Yeah, guys, 3 minutes left to join the arena. I don't want to spoil anything, Nordovic, so I'm just going to say that the first game is up on YouTube. Kirk D says, I got better at Blitz once. I mainly play classical. Well, that's the thing. The way you get better at Blitz is you improve your overall chess, because Blitz is great at testing your instincts. Blitz, in my opinion, is not great at improving your chess. It's great at testing your chess because you're just making your first instinct moves. But if you haven't really played a lot of chess in the first place, well then, yeah, your Blitz is not going to be very good, right? Because you haven't really built up these instincts. So the way to improve your Blitz, I think, in the long run, is to play classical. In the short term, it's important to play a lot of Blitz and have good form. In the long run, you got to improve your overall chess. Yeah, I saw that one, Nordovic, against Adiban. That was a great video. Aribon's such a funny guy. Okay, 1.5 minutes to join the arena. Let me put the link in the chat. And maybe I'll just get some Spotify going. Keezy, you guys can play whatever openings you want in the arena. Totally up to you. And I promise not to shame you too much for the openings you play. I might shame a little bit. Full disclosure, I might shame a little bit, but I promise not to shame you guys too much. Scooty's volunteering to play Stafford. Yeah, maybe it'll be some good practice for you guys. Get some experience in against the Stafford. Actually, I mean, I would recommend practicing a little bit the lines we looked at earlier, like making the moves with your own hand. A lot of people think they remember something and then they show up to the board and they misremember it. It happens all the time. You're probably sitting to yourself, I kind of got it, but it's going to happen to you. So I would recommend playing it with your hand a couple times, building in that muscle memory. All right, guys, 10 seconds and we are getting underway. Once again, if you're playing the stream, make sure to mute it. Mute everything else so you're not distracted. Scared you'll lose your 1200? No, Crow, that's not a great attitude. That's just going to guarantee you're going to stay at 1200 forever. You got to try to get better if you're going to make progress. I mean, do what you want, but I would recommend not worrying about your rating. All right, look at this. We got the Stafford. We got the Stafford. All right, let's watch this. Orbitals. Executing the line beautifully. Beautifully. Look at this. C3. And that's it. That's it. White's doing great. Bishop b6, tricky move, but Orbitals was paying attention. Knight d2, excellent move, defending the e4 pawn in advance and preparing d4. Okay, bishop g4, this move we didn't look at. We're not going to look at every move possible, so now Orbitals is on their own, is going to try to figure out how to continue from here. Personally, my instinct would be to just take the center with d4. I don't really see what black is threatening. h3 is probably also totally fine here. e5 is a little aggressive, but I don't mind it. I don't really see the issue with e5. Yeah, Kirk, I agree. I think d4 there, but I think e5 is totally fine. And now we traded light squared bishops. And I think here, yeah, I would really want to see white make this move and just shut down that bishop altogether. e6 is probably okay as well, kind of opening things up. Because we have e takes f7 check. e6 might even be objectively stronger, but I definitely like d4. Okay, queen f3. I'm not sure about this move, just because I don't really understand the idea. Why is our queen so much better here? Just seems like a loss of a tempo. I think either e6 there was good or d4. For some reason, Orbitals doesn't seem to be wanting to play d4. Okay, goes for knight c4, which is also fine. But yeah, I like this d4 idea, just shutting down the dark squared bishop. And black has castled. Yeah, d4, there we go. Now the bishop on b6 feels very restricted, because white has this nice pawn center. Black could maybe go c5 at some point, but he just starts with rook e8. And now I think it's time for white to get out of the center with castling here. Yeah, castling looks good. And now on c5, white can always trade on b6 and get rid of the bishop. Bishop g5 is another move that white should be thinking about here as well. Okay, so black goes f6, looking to break open the position. But I think white is still in very good shape here. Maybe even this move. Just taking another pawn. Okay, decides to take on b6. That seems fine. But the problem here is going to be the time management, because now we're down to under a minute. And LVB here is playing very quickly. And so this is going to give black some good practical chances, even though objectively white is probably totally winning here. Yeah, just going to be a question of speed at this point. Because black still has some play, even if objectively it's good for white, but 40 seconds, not so easy. This is the burden. This is the burden of having a good position. It's that like you spend a lot of time looking for good moves. Okay, a little passive, this rook g1, but does seem to get the job done. I would have thought something like rook e4 earlier would have been good as well. But yeah, now black needs to kind of justify their compensation. Oh, a4, very quick from white. I like that. Just playing for a5, opening the a file, and trying to get some counterplay of his own. Absolutely. But yeah, 30 seconds here for white. Gotta be quick. Bishop f4, great move. Improving the bishop and covering the g3 square, so avoiding any unpleasant tricks. And now black has to keep coming up with some active moves here. Well, rook a8 check. Oh, that's a full rook. What happened? Oh, we blundered. Oh, big blunder, b6. Played very quickly. Alright, black is still fighting though. Still gotta convert, although I like Thorbital's chances here. Rook e8, looks like he wants to bring the rook back. Very important in Blitz is to find your targets, guys. Especially when you have low time and you're like trying to figure out what to do. Just try to find a target. Why don't we give up the bishop there? A little bit of ghosts from Thorbital's. We could just take with the pawn and we have another extra piece. I mean, there's really nothing here, but okay, decides to give up the bishop. And now we still have the extra rook, but we can feel the nerves. You know, this is what makes Blitz very tough, is that we can often feel the nervousness, unfortunately. And black has some threats, but we've hopefully can diffuse them. King h2, great move. Once push came to shove, white finds the defense. Now rook e5, very good. And hopefully we can convert with the extra rook. Yeah, just gotta stay focused, look for our targets. we should be able to take care of business. Take on f4, and now, okay, black has no threat, so this is just a matter of making quick moves, slowly improving the position, not hanging anything, offering trades, and just slowly advancing. And we can see Thorbidals, he's really trying to just keep everything 100% defended. I don't know if you have to be this careful, but I understand the thing is, when you're trying to be like this careful, you're just trying to keep everything covered, it's hard to advance, right? Like white actually needs to like win the game here. And it seems like we're just focused on defending everything, and we're not really thinking about how to best use our extra rook in the position. But see, black is just playing like full active here. And okay, rook f1, excellent move, forcing the trade. Good find. All right, now we've got the extra rook. Black has just the one queen left. We should be able to convert. So the conversion is just a little soft, right? It's just like white is just really just trying to make sure everything is defended, but still it's good enough. We get the queen trade, and now time to actually win the game. Yeah, GG. Okay, well played, Thorbidals. Scoring a big win for the Stafford. Let's go to the next game. We've got Laurent against Rosenberg. Now, Rosenberg did an excellent opening lecture for us just the other day on the Caro-Kann. That is still available in our VODs. So if you guys want to see some good instruction on the Caro-Kann and some of the typical lines, make sure to check that out. Stafford bad. Yeah, Thorbidals did great. Showed some good play. Now what's happening here? Seems like Rosenberg is getting a lot of counterplay here as black. This a4 move. White's king on f2 is not inspiring. So what happened in this opening here? This was a Slav, the cousin of the Caro-Kann. We kind of got into a little bit of trouble here with this move, queen d2. Seems like black started putting a lot of pressure on us. That said, I think white's position is still not so bad, as long as we can develop here. Yeah, Scooty, you were doing pretty well. But okay, Blitz is tough, you know? Tough to make the best moves when you don't have a lot of time, as I think we've started to discover. Okay, bishop f3. Hoping to trade off black's bishop. Yeah, my feeling is that black's king, now that black is castled, is safer. And I would really be looking at some kind of f6 break here from black in order to open up the f-file. It was queen g6 also makes sense. Trying to keep a grip on the light squares. Now it's going to be tough for white. Yeah, rook c4. Black is handling his business on the light squares here. Oh, bishop h4, inducing more light square weaknesses. But maybe white can solidify. Move like bishop d4. Ooh, rook d8. Yeah, that was not a move white wanted to see. Now we have queen versus rook and bishop, but queen is just too strong when the king is open like this. c3, huh? Alright, black should be winning this one. Nice job, Evan. Let's see who else we got. Chessmaster against Boondock Striker. Okay, very interesting position. I love g4 here. Looking to open up some lines. But we are a little bit down on time. So let's see what happened with Boondock. We had the London system. Good opening. And let's see. Knight d7. Interesting. So we get a lot of trades. White castle's queenside. I like the aggression. Now bishop d3 here, not a great move because black plays c4 and then the bishop just has to go back. So here we really needed to appreciate what the opponent wants to do and instead play a move like king to b1 or bishop e2 or maybe h4, something like this. So we lose a tempo. And now both sides are attacking. Oh, and black, I would say, plays a very bad move a4. I don't like this one. Because black is trying to attack, right? And if black wants to attack, I'm going to need this a4 square for their queen and maybe look to sacrifice with like bishop takes a3. So a4 doesn't really help black at all. In fact, now the queen side is completely blocked. And white can just slowly build up on the king side. So strategically, black is not doing the right thing here. But I love what white is doing. g5, and now we're opening up lines for the pieces. Now it's time to play for either g6 or h6 and try to get one of these moves in. Problem for white is the time management down to 20 seconds. Very, very difficult to play like this. Now white goes h6. I would expect g6 from black to keep everything closed. And yeah, then we're going to get very blocked position. Ooh, I don't like king f8 at all. What about h7? h7, the pawn is promoting. Oh no, the king needed to stop against this pawn. Brutal. And Boondock Striker with a huge win. Look at that. Wow. g6 here was absolutely mandatory. And then white actually doesn't have such a direct way to win. If h7 check, I would just ignore this one and keep the pawn as a cover for the king. Because if you take, that could get super, super dangerous, opening the h-file for white's pieces. I wouldn't recommend that. But playing king h8 here, keep everything blocked. That looks better. Okay, well, nice attacking game there. All right, let's keep it going. Got Mommy against Orbitals. Both of these guys have played in our sub battles before. And Nordvik against Joel. Let's watch this. These are two of our subs as well. Yeah, I don't know if that's I definitely wouldn't recommend that though, Abu. I feel like sometimes good blitz players can get away with that, like spending all of their time early on, but for most players I would recommend not spending, you know, most of your time in the opening and early middle game, because you will definitely need that time later on. For blitz, for a practical point of view, better to just kind of make good and normal moves and then save time for later. All right, now this is a very interesting approach. This is Nordovic's pet approach, in fact. He really likes playing bishop e3 in these positions. And just giving up the bishop for this structure with double f pawns. Which looks a little strange because it's like we gave up our dark squared bishop, but I actually think it's not so bad. Because white gets this open f file and lots of play. Like knight comes to d5, bishop could have come to d5. White can also play for c3 and d4 here to completely block out the dark squared bishop. And then kind of slowly double up on the f file. Rook f2, rook a f1. I think white gets very good play here. Even though black gets the two bishops. So it is double-edged. Yeah, this knight a5 move I would say is very ambitious for black, but a very logical one. Okay, so Nordovic goes c4. Now I would expect Joel to take on b3, but we'll see. Takes on b3. Now this is something I would have just pre-moved. 7 seconds there I think is a little bit too long because it's not like white had any other options. Okay, bishop b7. Now we need to play on the king side here. Ooh, knight back to c3. Not sure how I feel about that. I don't think white was really worried about the trade on d5, or at least shouldn't have been. But now black plays f5, and now black is getting some serious counterplay. So a game might be turning in black's favor here. Okay, bishop takes d5. And yeah, pawn on e3 ends up hanging. So we end up losing some time here. We go like knight c3, and then queen g5, we go knight d5 back. Not sure I like knight d2 either, kind of going backwards, but now black has won along the dark squares. Hey, Stayman USA, how's it going? And Nordovic's big trouble here. I think Joel should probably handle this one just fine. Let's check out another game. All right, we got Vampire Chess against Rosenberg, and we got a Caro, Evan's specialty. All right, let's take a look. Both sides developing. Okay, looks like we have classic position with an isolated queen pawn for white. So black is going to be playing against this pawn, whereas white is going to be trying to play actively here. Although to be honest, I don't love putting the knight on e2 here for white. I'm not sure this one makes a lot of sense to me. I think the knight should be on f3 so that white can use the knight more actively in the future. Whereas on e2, the knight is not so active. All right, now Evan goes for a5, but I'm wondering how is he going to develop the light-scored bishop? That's kind of the main question here for black, is what to do. Typical idea is to put the bishop on c6, but for this, the knight has to jump to b4. And there we go, knight b4. Now, if white had played a3 on that last move, which is a very useful move, then it would have been a little bit tricky for black, because knight doesn't get the b4 square. But now we got knight b4, knight d5, and now black can develop. Yeah, Nordvik. I know, man. I know. Chess is hard. All right, g6. Logical move, blunting the bishop and avoiding the incoming threat of queen d3. Nordvik retreat variation. Funny. So bishop h6, rook e8, queen d3. Now black needs to develop here because white is going to be looking to create some attacking chances, although it's not that obvious how white actually attacks here. Because black's position is very solid. Personally, I would take black here. I would make some move like bishop g5. To me, looks very natural. Just trading the dark squared bishops. In general, guys, against the isolated queen pawn, you want to be trading minor pieces. It's a quick little educational tip. If we can trade minor pieces, then the opponent has fewer pieces to attack us with, and our heavy pieces will have a very easy time attacking that weak pawn on d4. So there we see bishop g5, great move. Trading off a pair of bishops and activating our queen by bringing it to g5. And from there, I think black should start to look to the future with confidence. Steven says they play Catalan type opening. I assume you mean with g3. I mean, the Catalan is strictly, a d4, c4 opening. So let's just say you play a g3 system against the Caro-Kann. Do I have thoughts on c takes d5? Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends, right? Like if you have a pawn that's hanging on c4 and black can take it and get away with it, then you might need to take on d5. But if the pawn is not hanging, then you often don't need to take on d5 because you kind of let the knight out. I would say if black develops the knight to d7 in those positions, then maybe you can take on d5 at that point because the knight is no longer going to c6. But in general, I'm not sure if the g3 setups are so effective because black is going d5, c6, and they're kind of playing very restrictive against that bishop on g2. Personally, I like the exchange variation, but with putting the bishop on d3. Because I think the bishop does better on this diagonal. Having a hard time with my arrows here, but this one. Okay, what's been happening? Oh, bishop b5. Black just won the exchange. So we brought the queen back, and black started playing for h4, h5, which black kind of needs to do, but white did, excuse me. White started playing for h4, h5, but black is in time with the counterplay. Now it takes on d4, and now white's position is kind of collapsing, but 20 seconds for Rosenberg, so he's going to have to figure this out. He has not managed his time super well here. But queen d5, that looks like a good move. If black can trade queens, then totally winning. And white's going to have to come up with something here because there's also knight g4 check in the position. So queen e2 is very logical, keeping an eye on the g4 square. Now black just has to continue making moves. And yeah, still be okay for black. Yeah, chess master. It's actually not very nice to say that about other people because they might be like in the chat, with you, and you're kind of making fun of them. I mean, we all blunder. I'm sure you blunder as well yourself. So, yeah, maybe that's not like the nicest thing to say in the chat. Just my opinion. Feels like we're kind of making fun of someone for blundering. But I'm sure we blunder ourselves quite a bit, yeah? So, gotta be careful with that. Karma has a way of evening the score. Oh, knight of 6 missed. Oh, there was check though. It was check. Excuse me. I thought there was knight of 6 check, but no. White was in check. But he does win back the exchange. Now things are a little bit more even, but yeah, black has some extra pawns here, so I think Rosenberg's gonna win this one. Yeah, SM Pooh Bear has never blundered, so he's allowed to make fun of anyone. Actually, I feel like they might not be listening. So let me write a text response as well. Yeah, Wizard never blunders. Wizard gives up pieces precisely when he needs to. Alright, let's see Rosenberg's rook endgame technique here. So he's advancing the king. I imagine the rook is going behind the pawn at some point. Very good. And then black's king can hide in front of the pawns and slowly win. E5, E4. Now he's taking this one with check. Otherwise, I would have rook F7 kind of trick. I don't love how Rosenberg played this, but I think it's good enough. And now, see, the rook can never get out of the a-pawn. So black can just keep pushing here. And now this a-pawn is again hanging with check. And then black can defend the pawn. Either king f3 or rook a2, both are good. King f3 was an easy way to win there, but this is of course totally winning as well. You can just go king f2. Not sure what we're worried about. A little panic here. I mean, king f2 is just, yeah, game over. Okay, I think Rosenberg's gonna finish this one off. Let's see another game. We have Laurent against Thorbidals. What happened here? Some kind of Torre attack where white got an e4 and looks like a great position for white, but I would play e5 here very quickly. I feel like neither side is fully respecting the center. As black, you gotta go d5 in these positions to stop white from taking the center. And as white, you gotta go e4, and then I would say go e5. And something like h4. And then bishop d3, and you get a very strong attack on the king side. Really, really nice. Knight e4, etc. Yeah, so finally we get e5. But now I would say this turned into a better version, except, oops, we blunder knight f6 check. And now some tactics. Wait, what happened here? So takes. I probably would have gone after the knight here with like rook e3, because then I think white keeps the extra exchange. Instead, we played here. And now Black won the exchange back. And is actually quite okay here. I would say Thorbidals got out of this one. Yeah, piece activity is very important. Okay, looks like Thorbidals got the extra pawn. That's exactly why I like G3 openings can't be back ranked. Well, you could also just play like H3 in lots of other openings. But okay. Teach their own. Yeah, just play F3 or F6 to avoid the back rank. Oh, some counterplay here. Things are gonna get real messy. Real messy. Takes. Maybe Rook takes B7, or Rook takes B2, Rook takes A7 maybe, but F2 is hanging. Could have maybe played F3. And the board is getting cleaned up. Whose Rook and Knight is stronger? Hard to say, but now White's going this way. Oh, Knight F4, King G3. Gotta go back or play Rook F1. Oh man, White's G-pawn looks stronger. I like White's extra pawn here because this G2 pawn can shield the king from checks. So it feels like White should be more active here. But Black is trying to defend. And we'll see what happens. G6, Knight E5. He's holding on. All right, we're going to be getting Rook A6. Wow. I don't like that. I think Black should have just taken on G6 and would have gotten a drawn Rook endgame. And then okay, some blunders here. Yeah, we could have taken that G-pawn. So there have been some blunders here. Oh, time pressure is too crazy. Gotta make a move, gotta make a move. Oh man. Oh, this is hard. This is stressful. I really want to get a Rook endgame so Thorbidals can practice his Rook endgames. But he's trying to flag the guy, and Laurent is just... Oh, the burden of a good position. Oh, it's too hard. It's too hard. Gotta make those moves quicker at the end. Alright, let's see. Mr. Jingles. Devil's playing chess. Looks like Black has an extra rook here. I'm going to assume is going to be able to convert it. Let's keep going. Alright, we have Date Sack against Pokey Ice LOL. And looks like White is winning the king and pawn endgame. Let's watch the technique. Can they checkmate with an extra queen? Now we don't need to pre-move here, and definitely don't resign, because you never know, maybe your opponent won't be able to figure out. Like, look at that, like white just had a perfect opportunity and is now started to struggle a little bit, but okay, seems to have found the right track, and there we go. Good stuff. Good stuff. But yeah, don't resign there, because you never know when the opponent is going to mess up or stalemate or flag, or who knows what could happen. Try to fight on. Alright, let's see some more games here. Let's see FSDS. Oh, this looks like another Stafford. Alright, let's see how FSDS handled the Stafford. Oh, Bishop E3. FSDS must have not attended the lecture. I don't like Bishop E3 here. I like Bishop E2, as we looked at before. And then C3 and D4. That's the plan. So, FSDS must have missed it. Although that said, still ended up getting a very reasonable position here as white. It has extra pawn. Yeah. Wow, Mr. Jingles got the draw. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Alright, let's keep going. I'm just looking for matchups that are kind of more even. Alright, let's see. Chess A00 against Rosenberg. And Rosenberg's down a rook. What happened? Oh, nice simplification there. Not sure if that was necessary, but I think that was good technique. Timwa, thanks for the prime sub. 4 months. Thanks so much, man. 13 Zeno, thanks for the prime sub as well. Also 4 months. 4-month gang. Let's see what happened in this opening. I'm just curious how we got to this point. Oh man, they're making moves too quickly. Alright, there we go. So this was Sicilian. So-called Lowenthal Sicilian. Oh, and we just blundered the exchange here. Unfortunate, but it happens. And then ended up losing the piece. Yeah, unfortunate. Looks like white won. Good job. Well done. Yeah, I think it's good not to resign in blitz. Because you might be able to come back. Exactly. Alright, got Nordovic against Milo Plays Chess. Let's see what we got here. Modern system. Ooh, e5. I think this is a little bit early with the e5. I would have just developed here. Knight c3, bishop d3, queen d2, castling, etc. But yeah, solid position overall. H6. Don't like that. But I don't like bishop takes h6 either because of this one. I don't know if it was a blunder or a trick. Looks like he hasn't made the move yet, so probably was just a blunder. Ah, knight d5, he misses it. And Nordovic misses it as well. He should see that one. Nordovic, knight to g4. You lose your piece. Huh, guys? Gotta be very careful before taking pawns. That would have been a full piece up for black. But now white is a pawn up and doing very well. b3. I like this move. Very restrictive. Oh, but wait, c2 pawn was hanging? Oops. Should have seen that, huh? Rook takes c2. And just like that, black got the pawn back. All right, rook d2. We're defending. Now position is close to about equal, seems like. Of course he saw. Yeah, sorry, Mr. Jingles. These guys are good. They're gonna punish you if they can, which is a good thing in chess. Oh, looks like Milo punished Nordovic for not securing his back rank. Back rank was a big problem. All right, let's keep it going. Orbitals against Rosenberg. Looks like a solid opening. Oh, Caro Khan. Bishop d3. Yeah, I like this system for white. c3. There we go. h3. Knight f3. Black plays bishop f5. Yeah, Evan was looking at these lines in the opening clinic, and I'm not sure if white really played this one in the best possible way, because black could have taken on g5. I'm actually surprised he doesn't. Instead he goes h6 and allows white to keep the bishop. I would have thought black wants to take that dark square bishop, but okay, Evan has other ideas. He's going after that b2 pawn, and Thorbittles is going to have to figure out what he wants to do here. I feel like chess masters like not listening to the stream. They just come in and they just type some stuff every once in a while. Yeah, no hope to learn, huh? A little bit of unfortunate self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, you want to have a different name, I think. Hope to learn would be better. Hope to learn. I think you want to be optimistic. I don't know, there's something about the psychology of chess improvement, right? Like, if you tell yourself you're bad or you're never going to get better, like, I think that often works against you. Yeah. I think at some point, you do want to inject some confidence into your game. Because, you know, it's It's hard to beat higher rated players, especially if you're not confident in your game. You know, like, in order to beat a higher rated player, like, you're gonna have to find some tactics, and some decisions are gonna be really hard to make. And if you don't believe you can do that, so what players often do, I think, often without realizing, is they play very shyly against stronger players. Like, they just play not to lose. They just try to make sure all their pieces are defended, and as a result, they end up missing a lot of good ideas, good aggressive moves. You know, if you look at any games collection, if you look at any of the instructive games, you know, that we often recommend, usually the way you win games is by being aggressive and posing problems and opening lines and ideas and so on. But if we're just playing defense chess and just trying to keep everything defended, then it's very hard to beat a high rated opponent. It's basically playing as if, like, not to lose. Now, I'm not specifically talking about Thorbidals here. I think Thorbidals is playing fine. I'm just talking to the chat in general. Yeah. Yeah, chess improvement is tough. What can I say? It's really hard, and everyone has their own ideas about what works and what doesn't. And I think a lot of players kind of get into a comfort zone where they kind of just want to play the same positions and they feel good about them. But I would suggest that a big part of chess improvement is learning to play new positions and being willing to try out different structures and different ideas and different styles, not just sticking to the same old way, you know, we're always playing. If we do that, that seems like a recipe to stay at the same level, right? If we're just executing all of the same ideas. Adam just wants to play winning positions. Well, those are harder and harder to get. Yeah, shaking up your openings, or even like within an opening, you know, like within any opening, there are different ways of playing it, right? It's not like if you play the Caro-Kann and they play the advanced variation, or like there's many different ways black can handle that one. Like, or if you're playing a Sicilian and they play the open Sicilian, they play different lines. There's different ways of handling the positions. So you don't even have to like just completely switch up your opening. A lot of times there's many ways to just switch up the lines you play within your opening. Like the King's Indian, for example, there's many different ways of playing the King's Indian against the different lines. So it's really just about kind of widening your horizons and learning to play different positions, different structures. Yeah, I agree, Sponge Human. Although I'm not clear on what RCT stand. What does RCT stand for? But I do agree that in general, I think people just want to think that what they're doing is working. Oh, randomized control trial, yeah. That's my feeling. I feel like everyone has their own ideas about how to improve, but more specifically, everyone wants to feel like what they're doing is working. And so it can be very hard to be objective. But my feeling is that there is no one or two best ways to train. There's many different ways to train chess. The important thing is to just be very consistent and to kind of stick to what you're doing. Yeah, so I think the worst way to train chess is to like start by reading out one book, and then next week you're like doing endgames, and then next week you're like learning an opening, and then next week you're doing something else, and then next week it's like, I think that's a good way to kind of stay at one spot for a while, even though even that might work for some people, right? As long as you're getting something out of it. But my feeling is that we should just try, like there's so many good books out there. Like just take for example like Zurich 1953 or Botvinnik's 100 Selected Games. Now, is Botvinnik's 100 Selected Games going to be like the most useful book for every single player out there? Probably not. But is it going to be useful in some cases? Like, I think so. I think it's going to be useful for many players. And it's probably going to be useful to a different degree to other players. But the point is, it's still a really good book to read. Yeah, self-rationalization. Yeah, I think that's a very strong instinct that people have. No, versus Polaris never plays chess. So sad. What are we doing all this for if we're not playing chess? What is the point? I mean, I think in general, and I imagine a lot of coaches would agree, you need to find a balance. You know, a balance with playing a lot of chess and studying. Right? Doing too much of one or the other is probably not great. Like if you just play all the time, I think you might improve a little bit from that, but you're not really engaging with the game in a deep way. And if you're studying all the time, that's probably worse if I had to choose, because well, then you're never giving yourself a chance to kind of integrate the skills and the ideas that you're learning. Yeah, that's all right, Crow. That's all right. I mean, I think the more you play, the more you'll be able to handle the pressures and have fun. But it's okay. You can pause. It's only like 4 minutes left in the arena anyway, so there wouldn't be that much time anyway. Yeah, Zero Sum, I get it. Okay, 4 minutes left. Let's see if we can check out some final games here. Yeah, plus 30 rating, great stuff. And you were worried about losing rating earlier, right? You were worried about dropping below 1200. Very bad strategy, very bad. Don't be worried about your rating. Yeah, because ultimately, you know, I made a whole video on this for our YouTube channel about whether you should care about your rating. And ultimately, you know, I know you don't want to be at 1200 for the rest of your life. Probably you're hoping to get to like 1300 at some point, 1400, 1500, etc. So I think the best thing to do would be to think about what to do to get up there, rather than worrying about, like, you know, whether you're 1180 right now or 1205. Doesn't really matter, right? If your goal is to get to like 1500. It's okay to care about your rating in a general sense, like a broader sense. I think everyone cares about their rating. The point I'm trying to make is that, like, caring about it on a day-to-day basis, I think, is just going to lead to suffering. You know, you win some games, you go up 20 points, you're happy. Next day you lose some games. Oh, I can't play chess anymore. Like, this is no way. This is no way to live. What is my recommended ratio of play study for 1600 rated players? You know, I'm not sure, Chess Talk. I don't think there's a golden ratio here. I think you just need a balance, right? Maybe 50-50 is a good number to kind of aim towards, but I've never really paid attention to, like, I don't track how much I play versus how much I study. I just try to study a little bit every day, and I try to play a little bit every week. Though lately I would say I'm probably playing like some blitz games every day, kind of practicing my openings. But it's important to play regularly. Not necessarily every day, but regularly. And it's important to study regularly. So we should be doing some form of playing and studying every week. Let's put it like that. Every week we should do something that's either reading or playing. How much is opening theory a part of chess understanding? Well, knowing the specific moves, I think, has very little to do with understanding. But improving your understanding, definitely good for your opening play. Any tips for reading books? I often can't visualize longer variations, and a chessboard isn't always available. What do you mean by a chessboard isn't always available? You mean you're like reading on the bus or the train or something like that? Or why is a board not available? Oh, like on an airplane? Yeah, so I mean, in general, I typically read books when I do have a board, so I can like play out the moves. But yeah, I mean, if you're on the plane, I guess you can put a board on your phone. There are also travel sets, very small chess sets that are magnetic, so like the pieces don't go flying everywhere, and you can follow moves that way. I used to do that when I would travel. I would have a little travel set with magnets, and I would play through games making moves. There are also apps, like Forward Chess, Chessable, where you can play through books. Or you can use like Lead Chess or chess.com, use their analysis board and play the moves out that way. Hey, Chess Latte. Glad to hear it. No idea, Crow, no idea. Alright, congrats, guys. Looks like Irina is done. Congrats to Mommy. Rosenberg, Datesack, well played. Well played, everyone. Alright, I'll take some more questions here. Oh yeah, Chess Talk. That's probably a little bit too much playing. I feel like one 45-minute game per day is probably more than enough. And then I would balance that with making sure you analyze that game and reading something on the side, right? Even if it's like a game collection or just some book, not necessarily has to be related to your openings. Just trying to like improve your chess by like learning some new ideas every game. I think this is the way to go. Okay, Ram141 asks, I've heard conflicting advice that you should either just study and play one opening or choose to study and play many. Yeah, I'm in the camp of just choosing one opening at a time and focusing on that one. But that doesn't mean you have to play it for the rest of your life. Like you can play one opening for like 6 months, 12 months, and then switch. And I think that's a perfectly good system. Ultimately, I believe you should play openings that give you positions that you're happy with. So if you're happy with the middle games you're getting, then there's no real reason to switch. But if you start to feel stuck, or you start to feel like you're in a funk or a slump, then switching your openings up, I think, is one of the best ways to get out of a funk. Laurent's asking, why do I play so bad in Blitz when I'm under 30 seconds? Laurent, I've seen a few of your games when you're like flagging in decent positions, or even just positions where we shouldn't be flagging, where you can just make any move and you'll get the 2 seconds. I think we might be really focused on trying to make good moves when we're low on time, or trying to make like the best move. But when we're down to under 30 seconds, you have to adjust your expectation and just be okay with just making the first like non-blunder move you can see, right? If you just see a move that defends something, doesn't hang anything, especially if you're down to 10 seconds, this to me is a much better blitz strategy than spending 8 out of your 10 seconds and looking for some good move. You know what I mean? So it's better to just play quick moves that don't blunder anything in some cases, compared to trying to like maximize your time and always trying to find the best move. And that's why Blitz isn't really great for classical, because it teaches you to do these things that work in Blitz, that are like good Blitz habits, but not good classical habits. In classical, you want to spend your time and try to find the best move, and I'm sure you know this. But in Blitz, you have to sacrifice the quality of your play in order to play faster. Simply the unfortunate truth, I believe. Yeah, I agree with Rosenberg. Too much emphasis on openings in general. I think people should be studying structures and learning how to play different middle game structures. And then from there, it almost doesn't even matter what opening you get if you end up in a structure that you're kind of familiar with, whether it's a Sicilian type of position, Caro-Kann, King's Indian, Slav, Queen's Gambit declined, whatever structure you get, you're then kind of able to handle yourself there. I think that's going to take you much farther than trying to learn move by move, like, oh, this is this opening and I'm supposed to play here. Because the opponents are not going to play into your lines every time. In fact, usually they're just going to play something random. And then you're still going to end up in some kind of structure, King's Indian structure, French structure, Caro-Kann, etc., Ruy Lopez. And you're not going to know the exact position, but you're going to understand how to kind of play that position, where your pieces are supposed to go, what you're playing for. What's the best way to study structures? There's different books. Excuse me. There's lots of books out there, and usually books on positional chess and books on strategy. I think are going to be the best way to learn different structures. Flores, wrote a great book. Excuse me, my throat is harassing me. Sorry, I got some spice stuck in my throat or something. Yeah, Perpetual Chess just did a podcast reviewing different pawn structure books. So yeah, a lot of those are going to be really good at teaching you how to play different positions. Any fun endgame books? Yeah, Timwa, I did a whole review on every endgame book you should read. And it's on our YouTube channel. The video, I think, is called Every Endgame Book You Need to Master Chess. So I would encourage you to check that one out, because that gives all my thoughts on the endgame books. Any more books for me in the works? You mean writing a book? Probably not. Not in the near future. Just too much work. But I might do some more Chessable courses. After Miles beat Karpov with 1a6, that was the day everyone realized middle game and endgame studies shouldn't be ignored. I think they knew that before the 80s. But yeah, clearly opening study isn't everything. Very far from everything. Yeah, SM Pooper. Yeah, we talked a little bit about it just a few moments ago. Basically, books about positional chess strategy, and there are specific books on like pawn structure chess, like how to play different pawn structures. But if you read something like Silman or Helstein, those authors have a lot of material on how to play in different structures as well. Yeah, as well as like just game collections, like Chernev's books, etc. Maybe write a book on OTB versus online chess. I don't want to. It's just not an interesting topic for me. And I mean, books, they take a long time to write, so I'm not really sure it's in my best interest. The Hippo setup, yeah, it's I think it's a good blitz opening. What's a solid opening like the Sicilian, but for d4? I mean, I don't know if we can consider the Sicilian a solid opening, like it's a pretty dynamic opening. It's theoretically very solid. I would say a a similar opening to the Sicilian is the Grunfeld defense. If you learn the Grunfeld, you're going to be getting kind of a similar style of play, where theoretically it's very solid, but you get a lot of very dynamic positions and get very asymmetrical structures. Yeah, Nimzo is also very good. But yeah, Nimzo I would say is more of a positional opening. Is the Endgame Studies course out yet? No, I think they're beta testing it right now. But I think it'll be out in September. Funny. Thanks, SM Pooh Bear. There's that endgame video I was talking about. Every endgame book you need to master chess. But look, guys, I mean, ultimately, how do you get better at chess? You got to play a lot of chess. You have to review your games and see where you went wrong. And you got to study chess as well. And I think the best way to study chess is to read books by strong players. I should have put my own Chessable course on the list. Well, Timo, the Chessable course didn't exist yet, so that would be really hard. But yeah, I'll think about it. So what's the best way to learn how to like play good chess? Well, like there are all these like super strong players, guys, you know? Like imagine I told you like you would have a private lesson with Vishy Anand where he would take you through like 50 of his best games and he'll show you like variation by variation what he was thinking at every moment in the game. What would you say to that, guys? Let's just say, for example, like no promises. Let's say I have a contact with Vishy Anand and I'm like, if you want a lesson with Vishy, let me know. And he'll sit down with you and he'll take you through all of his best games and what he was thinking. Would you say yes to that? Or would you be like, well, is he going to go over the openings that I play? Like, what would you guys say to that? Would that feel like a good opportunity that you would beg for? Or would you be like, yeah, but is it going to help me with like my openings? You know, Vishy's an E4 player. I'm a D4 player. You know, like you'd be like, I'm seeing a lot of enthusiasm in the chat. Yeah, you'd be like, yeah, definitely. Or what if I said like, you know, Fischer, I could hook you up with Bobby Fischer and he'll take you through some of his best games and show you at every moment what he was thinking and what were the variations he was thinking during that game. What would you say? Would you want that lesson, or would you be like, yeah, but you know, is he going to show me the openings, or like, you know, maybe I should be doing tactics instead. It seems like you would want to do that lesson with the world champion, right? Sit down with them, play through their games with them, and then they show you what they were thinking. Well, guess what, guys? This exists, and it exists in the form of books, right? A lot of these guys have written game collections where they do exactly that. They go through their best games, and they tell you what they were thinking, and why they played the moves that they played, and what they calculated. Right? So the only difference is that instead of listening to their words, you have to read their words. But the analysis is essentially all the same. And so this is available, guys. I mean, you guys were like going crazy. Like, yeah, that would be awesome to get like a lesson with Vishy and play through their games. But like, this is available in the form of books. You can literally go through the book and see exactly what they were thinking. Now, you can't ask the book a question, I agree, but you can analyze the game on your own and then ask Stockfish. You can ask Stockfish your questions and see what it says. And that's also available for free. The book isn't free. The books are very cheap though, comparatively. Like the cost of a private lesson with Vichy is going to be a little bit more expensive than the cost of just buying Vichy Anand's, My Life in Games. But then if you have a question, perhaps you can look at the book with a training partner, or you can post the position in the Discord channel. I would say the easiest thing, let's say you're anti-engine, you don't want to use the engine, that's totally fine. Go to the Discord channel, post a position, in middle games or whatever, find one of the channels, say like, hey guys, how come in this position, this move isn't considered? What would you think? And then people will give you their opinion. So, I mean, it sounds like pretty great training, guys. And a lot of these players are not even around. Money cannot buy a private lesson with Fischer or Alekine or Botvinnik. Just, there's not enough money in the world to do that right now. But you can go through their books and see some of their best games and see their thoughts on the games. Again, just ask yourself, do you want a lesson with a world champion? If so, maybe read some of their books, it's honestly very straightforward. How much would a player of Vichy or Kasparov's caliber charge per lesson? I mean, they probably charge several hundreds of dollars per hour, if not more, if it's even available. Some players don't give lessons. They're just like, no, I'm not interested. Yeah, I'm not sure Kasparov even offers. You have to probably give him. He's a very busy guy. Like these players are really busy. They have better things to do. But you can just go play through their games. Steve Nash has the right idea. See you later, Steve Nash. Inspired now. Yeah, guys, imagine there was a world champion and his name was Capablanca. And virtually every coach agreed that his games were really useful. And we do. Everyone loves Capablanca's games. And now imagine that there is like a book of his games available to study with some notes and some thoughts that he had during the game. What if I said that book exists and it's available and it's really not that expensive? But instead, people are going on and they're going on Twitter and they're arguing about whether woodpecker method is better or like Chessable is better or Chess Tempo or Lichess or Chess.com, or whether you should be doing the tactics trainer or solving puzzles from a book. While people are wasting their time arguing about what's the best way to solve puzzles, you can be playing through some of the greatest chess games of all time and just reading. And I don't buy that, Tim. I think for the most part, people are capable of reading. But let me just tell you guys, I mean, the world champions, they're not on Twitch. They don't have YouTube channels where they just make videos. But all the books to master chess have already been written. I mean, there's new books coming out all the time that are really good. But all the books that you need to master chess, they're already out there. You just have to read them. Now we're in a different age now, but 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when there was no Twitch, there was no chess YouTube, people still got to chess master. Think, how did Capablanca get to his level, or Fischer? How did these guys, Kasparov, Karpov, all these guys, how did they get to their level without videos and chess.com tactics trainer? How could they do it, right? They had books. They had books. Yeah. And a lot of the books not written by world champions are, of course, extremely good as well. You have authors like Silman and Sarawan. I mean, Sarawan, amazing player in his own right, but he's also written some incredible books. Everyone go out and just get the closest Saruman book you can find. Just go get a book by Saruman and just read it. I mean, I think it's very straightforward, guys. Really. How many chess books have I read? I don't know. I mean, I lost count. I would say between probably like a couple dozen at this point, maybe several dozen. Yeah, the Step Method. I think that's a good series of books. But yeah, all these books by like non-world champions, they have the games of the world champions in there. You know, the games of masters. So yeah, it's all out there, guys. It's all out there. Okay, rant over. Oh no. So many people have yet to finish a book. Guys, just finish a book. Or at least read most of it. Like read like 60 to 70%. Because then you'll get most of the benefit out of that. At least. Come on, guys. Take your chess seriously, and your chess will reward you back. Not that you guys aren't, I'm just saying, you know. No, 60 to 70% is fine. There are many books that I haven't finished, but I feel like I have read them because I read most of it, like 70, 80%. Like, I think, like, whatever. Like, did you read the book or not? Okay, like, if you don't read 100%, I'm sure you still got something out of it. So, don't be so hard on yourselves, guys. All right, it's my job to be hard on you. You don't gotta be hard on you. I'll be hard on you. That's fine. I will do that for you. I will take that responsibility and be hard on you guys. So you get moving. Come on, guys. It's already August 2021. What are we waiting for? All right, when are we gonna start crushing it, huh? What are we waiting for? All right, I want everyone to do 10 hours of training before the end of today. Okay, it's 4:30 Central Time. It's 2:30 Pacific. 10 hours today. From everybody. Nice, GM Candy. Nice. How much will watching PogChamps improve my chess? Well, actually, that depends, Ursus. If you're around that same rating, I mean, I'm sure some of those streams will be pretty instructive, actually. Like, if you're a similar rating to the players and you can learn from their mistakes and actually, like, pay attention, like, I'm sure it will be. It will be instructive. Those guys, like Danny Ranch, Robert Hess, they actually have, like, very educational commentary. I mean, they're very entertaining as well, and they know how to do a good show, but they also like make really instructive points. So I think you can get something out of it. Yeah, like I don't think it's all that bad. Alright guys, I'm gonna head out here. You have your homework. We got a couple sub battles coming up tomorrow. Like I mentioned, against I Am Rosen and then Samai Raina on Sunday. So make sure to sign up on arena.gl to register for those matches. And yeah, there's going to be a US Chess School lecture by Grandmaster Johan Helstein. Speaking of great books, Helstein's books, fantastic. He's going to be lecturing at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. So in about 80 minutes from now, hour and 20 minutes. So that'll be good. If you're looking for more instructive content, yeah, check out the YouTube channel. We have tons of these US Chess School lectures that are really, really like, I mean, these are just real classes that these instructors do with like strong players. That's just like straight up like free lessons. People always ask like, oh, can I join this lesson? How does this work? How do I get in? You can join the lesson. Just watch and follow along. Just pause the video if you want some more time to think about the solution. And you're there. You're basically in the class. Easy. Easy. Alright guys. Let's find someone to raid. Let's see who's doing instructive stuff. Looks like Feingold. Round 9 Sinkfeld Cup game analysis. Cool. So Ben's going over the games from the Sinkfeld Cup. They've been very instructive. I've been here following them. Let's go raid Ben. Alright guys, this was fun. Sorry for yelling at everyone about how you're not studying enough. I really do apologize. But I have your best interests at heart. And I just want everyone to start crushing it in chess because I know that's what you guys want. And you might not be willing to admit it. Everyone's always like, oh no, I'm fine with my rating, but I know what it's like. I know you guys want to get better. And hopefully we can help you do that. So I hope we all feel inspired. And yeah. Enjoy Ben's stream if you're gonna keep watching. Tell him the dojo says hello, and I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow for the sub battle. Hopefully, see you guys then. Have a good one.